That's why on the movie Forever Purge was in Texas. Remember, you had Ephraimites dealing with his cowboys. You know, they know that time is coming. Ephraim is waking up. You know, breaking out of that darkness of that Catholicism. You know, learning who they really are as Ephraimites, and they're not calling themselves Puerto Rican, Mexicans, Latinos, Hispanics. You know, bywords no more. Judahites not calling themselves blacks no more. Gentiles not calling themselves Caucasian, whites, and Irish, and so forth anymore. You know, people all coming together under the Holy Kingdom of Judah. You know, it's important to know the truth. They don't want people knowing that. That's why the Mufasa wife on a Broadway show recently, she died. She got stabbed up. And she was, I think, Mufasa's wife, younger wife, when going through the stage of the story. But yeah, that's what she was. In the Broadway, Imani was stabbed up by her boyfriend. You see? Back in December. So that's what they want. They want Ephraimites battling against ICE, because that ICE, like I said, you remember Ephraim deal anyway. You know how they always try to say the corona talk. So, you know, corona is the surface of the sun, which goes to the sun of righteousness, dealing with the poles, causing that cold to happen. You see what I mean? You see where I'm going with this? So that's why they say so-called Mexico. They love their coronas, because corona deals with what? The surface of the sun. That's why they had to have the pandemic situation in 2020, which goes to 2020 vision, the eyes to see, ears to hear. You know, the whole thing with the Rona aspect, because it all goes to the surface of the sun. Like during the first Exodus, it was disease and plagues and pestilence and so forth. You know, now it's the same thing. You had to have the plagues, now the pestilence, you know, goes into this whole thing right here. Let's delve deeper into this. So the pestilence now go right into the ladybug, which is like a beetle. It's number the beetle. So you see, you got the scarab, the beetle. You know, that's just written when he rides with his wings. You know, his hiss will be heard. The sound of his wings will be a great hiss. So you know that all goes into what? Like the beetles, when they fly, you hear a strong hiss. And I'll show something in a second to show and explain that. But that's why in ancient Egypt they used to use the beetle, because it was like a symbol of the king that was coming. So you got the first and second coming with the two Alpha and Omegas, the Lewises. See? There's no way around none of that. That's why you had to have the plagues. Now you got the pestilence, which is just the ladybugs, the beetles, the seal of Judah. That's why right now you got a man about to climb a skyscraper that's 1,670 feet tall, because that 167 and 6776. 767 number of spirit, 6 number of the flesh. The top of the altar is measured at 76 degrees. So they want to reverse that and have the flesh overpower in the spiritual kingdom. Masons want to war against the spirit kingdom of God to come. That's why Wichita, Kansas zip code is 67, because they know that he's rising up out of there. Judah is headquartered in Wichita, Kansas. That's why they had to have the monks out walking, you know, around, you know, going on their walks, you know, because they already know that time is coming with Judah. The law about is flowing from Zion, so Judah going to continue to gather and gather and gather till the time comes of the Exodus, when many shall what? Be in plight. There's no way around none of this. They just mocking this right here. You know, Revelation 7:9, after this I beheld, and lo, and a great multitude, which no man number, of all nations, kindreds, peoples, and tongues, stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. So you know